As the Chicago Bears prepare to take on the defending Super Bowl champs in Kansas City, any given Sunday possible, because the Bears and the Chiefs have scored the same amount of points this year, and the offensive defensive stats aren't too far off from each other. Chiefs are 1-1 at Arrowhead. The Bears are 0-2 entering Arrowhead. We got it all for you guys today, along with Ryan Poles' reaction to his press conference. But today I have a very special guest, Brendan Sugrue from the Bears Wire. Brendan, welcome to the show.
What's up, Nick? Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited, even though, my God, it's been a week, man. I feel like I need a drink or something. I don't know how you're feeling.
Well, I definitely, I'm holding off on drinking because I feel like I will go on a tangent on Twitter if I start getting emotional about it. And we got that while we're recording, the Niners and Giants are on. I'm like, God, I wish we could have pulled off what the Giants did last week. But overall, I'm frustrated with the team because of how things were handled, but I'm excited because the guys are excited. And one guy that came out that deserved a drink yesterday was Ryan Poles, especially on his birthday where the disaster of the day happened. But he came out today and had a pretty nice press conference. Brendan, so just to give the folks a little bit of a recap, Poles came out and said there's no finger pointing from Justin Fields. The guys are energetic. We're handling the Alan Williams situation internally at the moment, and no one in the organization is hitting the panic button right now. So what kind of was your reaction to that? Are you feeling pretty good about it? Like, do you think he's kind of got something behind his head right now, like telling him say the right things? Like, what was your initial reaction?
So first off, it was really good to see Ryan Poles even just come into the picture and say, I got to address this because of what happened yesterday. And I mean, for those who don't know, Justin Fields inadvertently called out his coaching, the Alan Williams resignation, Braxton Jones going on IR. All of that was just everywhere across social media.
Nathan Peterman getting released.
And then coming back to the team 24 hours later. So the fact that Poles came out and even said that, look, we're going to address this head on, I thought was very smart. We've seen GMs in the past not do that, Ryan Pace. But the fact that Poles even just said, like, look, we're not panicking. We know that we're facing adversity. We know there's an uphill battle right now. I was very appreciative of it. And I think Mark Carman said it best of CHGO. You feel a little better when Ryan Poles talks. You do, because he's just got that calming aura, even though he's so young. I did think it was interesting, though, that he said, we have the talent on paper. It just needs to gel. So whether or not he meant it or not, to me, that says, I'm doing my job. The coaches need to get this thing together and make it cohesive. Now, when it comes to Justin Fields, I'm really glad he didn't just put the blanket statement that we have all the confidence in the world in Justin Fields. He pretty much dissected it and said, he's not a finger pointer, like you said. Things need to take time and gel, and the coaches need to, and they are doing it, but they need to say, what can we do to make you more successful? He kind of broke that down a little bit, and I appreciated that because he's talking about his rare athleticism, his talents, and he's acknowledging that you need to find a way to use that best. So he could have easily just said, we believe in Justin and we believe in this staff to get the most out of him, but he didn't. So I thought that was really good. And look, the Alan Williams situation continues to be weird. And he even dodged all the questions about it as well. Like, I'm not going to talk about it. I don't know how much we want to talk about it tonight, but just understanding that he resigned, but there has to be something more at play with how much everybody in Hallis Hall, including Poles, refuses to talk about it. But look, I'm glad he acknowledged that they're going through adversity. They need to get through this. And at least that he's got the backing of the ownership and GM. But it just needs to get fixed.
So Pat McAfee came out on his show today and talked about the situation. And apparently McAfee has close sources to him that is saying that something fishy is going on with Alan Williams. He didn't want to speak on it. And I think the Bears are handling it the best way possible by not saying anything. They don't know what's true. The coaches might not even know that much about it. The only people that know a lot is Alan Williams himself and Alan Williams' attorney. And we don't even know if he knows a lot. So, I just hope Alan Williams is okay. Maybe this was why the defense was being affected. It could have been a mental health thing. It could have been something else that we don't know about. But overall, I hope all is okay with Alan Williams. And I'm with you. I think Ryan Poles did a great job today. The transparency's been there. It's been there since day one. He came out and he had to say what he had to say. And as the general manager who hired all these guys to be the coaches, and he worked his tail off for the last 7 months to put together this team, I'm happy he kind of maybe took a little subtle shot at them. Like, we do have the talent on paper. There's no doubt about it. These coaches got to get it together. And it starts with Luke Getsy. And that's kind of where we're going to get into the next subject for the Kansas City Chiefs. Great, just great lead there, Brett. I love it already. So first subjects first. What Getsy needs to do to allow Fields to be the best player possible on the field. You know, Fields came out and said, hey, I really haven't been myself. I'm trying. That's kind of, I've been robotic, trying to be a perfectionist. And then he had to clear it up. And then now today, there was a video of him hugging Getsy at practice. Everyone looked all happy, good to go. But Brendan, kind of break down for the folks, you know, we'll go back and forth for a couple minutes here. But what is a few things out of the gate that Getsy should be putting on the offensive playbook this weekend and allowing Justin Fields to do?
Nick, are you a Star Wars fan?
No, but I'm just going to be honest.
Okay. All right. Well, look, it's not the best movie, but I am making Luke Getsy watch Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and watch Qui-Gon Jinn, because he tells Anakin in this, feel, don't think, and use your instincts, because that's exactly what Luke Getsy needs to say to Justin Fields. I wish you were a Star Wars fan, because I would have hit a little harder, but that's okay.
I Justin am now. Fields, that's a good quote.
There you go. It's not a good movie, though. The other movies are better. But anyway, Fields does. I totally agree with what Fields said yesterday. Whereas if you get a lot of coaching, you get a lot of voices in your head, and you're trying to make those changes, it is hard to kind of like just play the game that you see fit. And I think all of us, when we're growing up and learning things, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whatever, we've had that where teachers and coaches are kind of making you do things a little bit differently. So if I'm Getsy, after all of this, I'm saying, you know what? Just feel the game, use your instincts, and just play freely like you want to. And we're going to do the best we can to support you. I think that's the best course of action after what we've seen the first 2 weeks. Now, when it comes to the actual offense, run the damn ball, because this past week, I mean, you talk about against the Buccaneers, a game where they only trailed as much as 10 points at one time. That's not that much. You're still in it for the most part. There were only 16 runs called versus 29 passes. That's nearly a 2-to-1 ratio in a game where you really weren't down that much for pretty much any of it. I mean, it was within a one-score game for the most part. So get that balance under control. Get Roschon Johnson continued snaps, because we've seen that when you get that I formation going, Kari Blossom game can blow some defenders out of the water. And look at
this.
He's
been doing great, by the way. He's been doing great.
Yeah, when he's on the field and you give him chances to block, running backs are usually able to find holes and get 10 yards plus. We saw that again, and you rarely used it after that. So just establish a run. Don't go away from it. I mean, look, if this becomes like a 40-point affair where the Chiefs are up 50-10, all hope is lost. You might as well pass it anyway. But still, if you can, keep running the ball. And in terms of the passing game, we talked about making Justin Fields play freely, roll him out of the pocket, cut the field in half at times. But I'm also wanting him to force feed DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney specifically, if Mooney is healthy enough to play. DJ Moore, whenever he's been targeted, good things happen. He's getting first downs. When he's a focal point of a drive, it almost always ends in a touchdown. We saw that against the Buccaneers, the 2 drives that he was actually featured on. I don't know why you wouldn't force feed the ball to this guy. And look, when the Bears got him at first, I was afraid that this was going to be the Brandon Marshall show that we saw in 2012. It was fun to watch at times, but the offense only went so far. Now I'm begging the Bears to force feed the ball to Moore until opposing defenses can stop it, because it is crystal clear he's their best offensive player. And look, we heard Devin White mic'd up earlier today, said they ain't using you right. And DJ Moore's like, yeah, I know. We know that too. So Luke Getsy's got to get him the ball more. And I think really good things are going to happen, especially against this Chiefs defense.
I couldn't agree more with everything that you're saying. I mean, like, to start things off, back to the DJ Moore comment. I mean, DJ Moore had his first 100-yard receiving game with the Chicago Bears in his second game, and he had 6 receptions. 6 receptions, 104 yards. It works. What did DJ Moore do? He opened it up for Chase Claypool to go 3 for 36 with a touchdown. Cole Kmet opened up a lot more. Roschon Johnson opened up a lot more. And So you put DJ Moore out there as your wide receiver one, good things are going to happen. Darnell Mooney, like you were saying, is listed as questionable. He has been limited all week with a knee injury, but Matt Eberflus came out and said all is looking good. So you have your three-headed monster in Claypool, Moore, and Mooney out there. Good things are going to happen when you feed DJ Moore first. So definitely a checkpoint. That's number one on my list, at least for this offensive, what has to happen. On top of it, Rashawn Johnson and Khalil Herbert both averaged more than 5 yards a carry this past Sunday against a tough Tampa Bay front seven, and they were ripping it up. And I was shocked they weren't running it more. And, the longest run of the day, guess who made it happen? Blasingame. Like, you put him back there, he's a fantastic fullback. Doesn't do a lot. He does the job of the fullback, though. Mm-hmm. He is the definition of do your job. And I think that against Chris Jones, especially being back out there, might have a little bit of rust on him still, but he's out there. You got to have that extra blocker in. So I think Luke Getsy definitely needs to do that. But one thing I wanted to hear from you, and I'm going to bring down some answers for you, Brendan. But one thing I want to see Luke Getsy tell Fields to do is rollouts and run it for 12 yards. Constantly get first downs. That is what the Chicago Bears have to do because it worked for them last year when they went on that huge streak of 30-plus points in a game. Fields was rushing like crazy. Those rollouts were working. And the Kansas City, linebacker room and defensive backs, they're quick, but they're not Justin Fields get after him quick. So, that's kind of what I'm going for. But, what do you think about the rollouts? Like, do you think we should balance them? Do you think we should go all out on them? Like, kind of how are you feeling about them?
No, I think balancing them works. I mean, look, it hasn't happened a lot, so even some is going to be an improvement over what we saw the last few weeks. And one player I highlighted in a Bears Wire article earlier this week was cornerback L'Jarius Sneed. And he's the guy who's probably going to be all over the field. He could come in on blitzes. He could be kind of playing that spy sort of defender who could be looking for Fields. He's really had an up and down season. He's taken receivers out of the game. He did that to Calvin Ridley on Sunday, but he's also missed a ton of tackles. So, this came from PFF. L'Jarius Sneed playing 136 total snaps, overall defensive grade of 50.1. His coverage grade is just 52.3, and his tackling grade is 28.2. He's allowed 7 receptions on 5 targets for 94 yards, and he's had 6 missed tackles already this year. So if he's, trying to get Justin Fields, I think Fields could definitely break out of that. And if he's covering DJ Moore, we know DJ Moore can force missed tackles. So just give him the ball and let the man work. So, but yeah, in terms of rollouts, I mean, definitely just get him moving. And then it's up to Fields to make that play. Defenders are going to come in and then guys are going to be open. We've seen it with so many quarterbacks. We see it with Patrick Mahomes, who of course we're going to see this weekend. So just get it going one way or the other.
Were you talking? To be honest, I thought you were talking about Eddie Jackson for a second. Just had to throw that little jab out there.
No.
We need him. He is going to play this upcoming Sunday. We definitely need him. We'll get to the defense in a second, but we definitely need Eddie Jackson to not play like that guy, and we need him to play like the Eddie Jackson from 2018 and 2019. Let me break some things down for you, Brendan. The Kansas City offense versus the Chicago Bears. Offensive passing yards. The Kansas City Chiefs average 262 passing yards per game. Bears average 179. This, again, Fields has had back-to-back 200-yard plus games. This is based off stats, including interceptions, so everyone has to kind of put that out there just to make things clear. The Kansas City versus Chicago offensive rushing yards, very even. Kansas City averages 95.5, and the Chicago Bears average 94.5. That is without Justin Fields rushing like he was last year. You put Justin Fields like last year out there, you're automatically at 140-plus yards a game for the rushing offense. One thing I wanted to talk about with you, and I wanted to see if you had a couple more thoughts on it, is let's run the ball. Like that, clearly, it's going to be within a game plan. The Kansas City defense sees this at practice all the time. They're more used to going aggressively against the pass. Yes, you have Chris Jones, but honestly, the way that Jacksonville ran over all them last week, because Kansas City's rushing defense gives up almost 100 yards a game, I think the Bears should be more run heavy this week. What are you thinking about that?
Absolutely. And it's kind of crazy because I remember last year, and I'm sure you do too, week 2 against the Packers, the Bears passed like what, 17 times and ran the ball like 40 times basically. And
Yep.
everybody was complaining like, no, you gotta have some balance. You gotta pass the ball. You gotta do this, even though the run game was working, and it worked all last season too. I think that, Khalil Herbert, anytime he gets the ball, he's a threat to hit a home run. We talked about Rashawn Johnson already and just how his physical nature, bouncing off tacklers and, finding those holes, he's able to make things happen. This was a great, great rushing team last year. I do not understand why it's not more of a focal point, especially when your quarterback is struggling like Fields is. If you see that he's dropping back and things aren't happening for one reason or another, why not go back to the ground game? And I mean, you're probably going to get like a lot less pass holding calls and a lot less penalties, which have put them in those 2nd and 20 situations. I really want to see more of it. This was this team's strength. I don't know why it wouldn't be the strength going forward.
And also the running back room, I mean, I want to hear your opinion on it, but the running back room got better this past year. I mean, you kept your vocal point in Khalil Herbert. You brought in a dynamic running back in Deontay Foreman, who did not play last game. But then you have Rashawn Johnson, who, if it wasn't for Bijan Robinson in front of him, Johnson could have been one of the better running backs in college last year. And the Bears got an absolute steal in him. So, I mean, do you think the room got better? I mean, I think that this room against Kansas City could easily, without even Justin Fields running for more than 40 yards, could break 120 plus rushing yards.
I think it got better. Yeah. And I mean, looking at the stats from David Montgomery last year versus Deontay Foreman had, I think it was like half a yard more yards before contact. So that's part of it. Like, he's finding holes better. That could be an offensive line stat as well, but he's got a little bit more burst. He still has the physical nature with him. I don't know if he's going to play again, to be honest. It's very interesting that I joked that he was going to get the Mike Davis treatment at some point, just like in 2019 when they brought in a veteran, but then they also drafted a guy who eventually became the lead running back. I thought it would take a little bit more time, but look, if you're going to lean on the running game, why not have all 3 active and do what the Philadelphia Eagles did against the Vikings the other last week on Thursday Night Football, and just run the ball until the team can't stop it, and just keep rotating those guys in and out and keep control of the ball, because the best way to win is to keep Patrick Mahomes off the football field. I mean, that's clear as day. So I think it is better overall. But to use a word that Ryan Poles, has said, it takes time to gel. I know. I'm sorry. I got a nickel here. I'll put it in the jar. But it needs time to gel. And so I think with these running backs and this offensive line, that's still going to take time.
So let's go into flipping it. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball, Brendan. The Bears, the Kansas City offense, like I was saying earlier, passes for an average of 262 passing yards per game. You have a guy named Patrick Mahomes doing it. So those stats are relatively low to start the year. Let's kind of start off with that. Detroit held Mahomes pretty well. I mean, clearly Detroit won the game. But on top of that, also Kansas City is rushing for 95.5 yards. The Bears defense is allowing 277 yards per game as of right now, and they're allowing 106 rushing yards per game. They are also, their time of possession compared to their opponents the last 2 weeks has been over 12 and a half minutes longer on the field. So those stats are going to be a lot longer. Guys are going to be tired, but they're still holding the Bears within games within reason. I mean, the Bears were in the game entering halftime against Green Bay, and they were in it to the finals, arguably minute against Tampa Bay. So what are a few things that Chicago has to do in order to stop Kansas City? You have Josh Blackwell coming back. Thank goodness. He did participate fully in practice today. Eddie Jackson's looking like he's going to be back as well. And you have your entire front 7 still out there. So what are a few things that you think the Bears have to do in order to stop Patrick Mahomes in that Kansas City offense?
Well, first of all, they need to keep Patrick Mahomes in the pocket. And we're talking about, getting Justin Fields out of the pocket. You want to keep Patrick Mahomes in the pocket because he hasn't been that superhuman that we've come to expect this past year for a number of reasons. I mean, receivers have dropped passes, and also the playbook looks a little bit limited. I mean, shout out Matt Nagy, I guess, for calling some of these plays, because
That name you could say.
Yeah. We are seeing a lot more screens and a lot more short passes. It's interesting because if you'd watched this past game against the Jaguars, they were running kind of that Luke Getsy system where they're just going to throw screens and then try to get a deep bomb here and there. The difference is some of those receivers were actually making it work and blocking was in place. But the big miscues happen on defense when Mahomes has time to move his feet, get out of the pocket. Then you have the defenders creeping up and somebody's going to be open on the back end to create a big play and move the chains. So I'm keeping Patrick Mahomes in the pocket and trying to make him a little bit uncomfortable and hopefully do something different than what we saw against the Buccaneers and actually take down the quarterback instead of getting them a little pat on the ass there and saying good job and letting them still throw the ball. Because the Bears pressure got home against the Buccaneers. They just couldn't, or they got there, they just couldn't get home. And then number two.
I thought Mayfield had butter on his jersey. Like,
oh my God, he looked like Patrick Mahomes.
He did. He was just getting away from guys. And I'm like, what are you doing? This guy has been on how many teams with how many coordinators, and he's ripping up the Bears. You know, Tampa got really lucky. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was
you're good.
Blown by that.
It was insane. And it does stink that if they are going to keep this short passing game going, that guys like Kyler Gordon and Eddie Jackson we'll see if Eddie Jackson plays, but of course, Kyler Gordon being out, he's so good at sniffing out those screens and being able to attack the line of scrimmage like that. So I think that's a big loss, and hopefully the Bears can overcome that. And then, of course, look, it's the obvious answer. Stop the connection between Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Now, last week in his first game back, he's probably a little bit hobbled, trying to get things going a little bit. Maybe he's got a little too much T Swift on the mind because Kelce didn't have that same Kelce game. He still caught a touchdown, but he only caught, I believe, 4 catches for 26 yards. And I think he had 9 targets. So clearly the chemistry wasn't there yet, but you know that's going to grow. And unfortunately, this is a get right game for those two to actually figure it out. So if you can take away Kelce because you know Mahomes is going to force feed him the ball, I think that's going to do wonders for you. And then, I think injuries might play a role in this too, because if Isaiah Pacheco can't go, he had a limited practice today. That really could be a disaster for the Chiefs running game because they don't have any confidence in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Jerick McKinnon hasn't really gotten going this year. He's more of a pass catching back anyway. And the running offense, as you just said, they're not doing too much with Pacheco as lead guy anyway. So if he doesn't play, that's going to be a huge boost for the defense, in my opinion.
And they're going to, forcing Patrick Mahomes to throw isn't really a bad thing because he usually makes things happen. But this Bears defense does have a couple ball hawks in it. And you never know. Any given Sunday, Mahomes could have a bad day. He is a human being. A lot of people don't think he is, but he is a human being. And Matt Nagy is his play caller. This defense knows Matt Nagy. They, at least Eddie Jackson definitely knows how that offense works. And even the special stuff from Matt Nagy is very easily able to get sniffed out.
Oh, yeah.
So I think I agree with everything that you're saying. So before I want to get it, we got a couple minutes left here, and thank you again for coming on, Brendan. We'd love having you on. Can't wait to do it again. Also, can't wait to have you at the golf outing next time. We'll make sure that we'll make sure you're not busy. But one thing that we got to do before for the fans here is we're going to do score predictions at the end, and then we're going to do our 3 keys to the game right now. So you rapid fire. What are your 3 keys to the game?
3 keys. First one, keep the momentum. Luke Getsy's great at running a script, and then it pitters out. So if the Bears start fast, they need to stay fast and keep going, whatever they've been able to do in the first one. Number 2, we already talked about it, contain Mahomes and Kelce. That's pretty clear. Just make sure that duo can't get going. And then number 3, something we haven't talked about, limit the penalties. Arrowhead is such a tough place to play, and these offensive linemen have had so many miscues. Braxton Jones was one of them. He's not playing, but limit the false starts, limit the holds, limit anything that could, cause you to have like 2nd and 15s or 3rd and 20s, and you are going to be in a much better spot.
Yep, I agree with everything that you're saying. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route, and I'm going to go defensive focused on this one. Number 1 is you got to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes because we have a fast enough linebacker room and a DB room that if he breaks it to the outside, Mahomes is not going to be getting a crazy amount of yards like people have in the past. So if you can get pressure on Mahomes, which that Kansas City offensive line, Mahomes has been running a little bit. He's also I think that injury that he had a couple years ago is still impacting him. I think it's a lot more serious than the Chiefs definitely kept it hush hush, but he hasn't seemed like that totally comfortable guy running around. The second thing that I want to come back with is that I want to see Matt Eberflus or whoever is calling plays on defense send the house no matter what. I mean, I know that kind of goes with one, but blitz. There's got to be more blitz packages involved in this defensive scheme. That is what's going to be the difference. You put Mahomes under pressure. Yes, he is very good at pressure throws, but even that little bit of percentage difference could be in the world to Chicago Bears. Jaquan Brisker definitely should have had that pick last week. Would have been a pick 6. If you do that again, the Bears are going to be in good shape. And finally, we talked about it earlier, run the damn ball, whether that be Justin Fields, Rashawn Johnson, Khalil Herbert, or Deontay Foreman. Don't do any of these weird Velus Jones Jr. kind of screen deals. They don't work. It is what it is. He's strictly a kick returner, but run the ball, use it effectively, put Blasting Game out there, make some holes, and tire out that defense. So then when you pass it, they're not expecting it. Those are my 3 keys to the game. Brendan, what is your score prediction for this Sunday's game?
Well, sadly, I have the Bears starting 0-3. I have the Chiefs winning 35-21. I do think it's going to be a better offensive day, and maybe 35 is a little low for the Chiefs. But look, this offense still hasn't gotten going yet. I don't think they're going to drop a 50-burger, but still, it's going to be at least 2-score game. And we're staring down the barrel of a 0-3 start, so that's fun.
Not fun, because we would love the Murphy's viewing party that we're having to at least have a win under the belt, but. That's why we have free alcohol there too, so people can drink away their sorrows. But I'm going to be, this is an optimistic Bears channel, and I'm going to keep with that. I'm going to have the Bears winning this game 28-27. I think that it's going to be a shootout. I think Getsy knows his job is on the line. He's going to be bringing out everything in his playbook. He's going to let Fields do what Fields does. And like you said, there's some key injury factors in this game. If the Bears, any given Sunday, if the Lions can beat the Chiefs, I think that the Bears can too. I think we're more talented than the Lions on paper, but like Poles said, just got to come together. And what better way than on national television to finally come together and get that ego going and get that swagger going than on national television. So I'm just going to come out and say that 28-27, call me crazy.
Real quick, is this going to be a Tony Romo game? I don't know, because all I would say to that is, ooh, I don't know, Jim.
Ooh. Now we confirm it's a Tony Romo game. I don't think it is.
Okay.
Is it maybe Greg Olsen?
Oh yeah, I think it's Fox. I think it's probably a Fox game. I don't know. I'll worry about that.
It is a Fox game.
Okay.
But I love when Greg Olsen does it, because he does, even though it was a tough trade from the Bears, he still talks pretty positively about it. But it is what it is. But Brendan, where can we find you so everyone at home can make sure they follow you? Make sure, and I have notifications on for you when you tweet. Everyone else should do the same. But where can everyone find you?
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. It's you can follow me on Twitter or X, whatever the hell we're calling it, at Brendan Sugrue. That's Sugrue. Check out my work at bearswire.com. You can also follow the Bears Wire, and then check out our podcast, the Bear Down Chicago podcast. It's myself, Ryan Dangle, Jack Wright, Patrick Sheldon, and Logan Bradley. We'll be recording and going live 7:30 p.m. on Sundays after the game. So hopefully. The last few, I'm sure you've been feeling it, a lot of therapy sessions. So hopefully we can actually feel good about something for once, and we don't have to commiserate together, but it's always a good time. So no, Nick, thank you so much, man. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. And if the Bears do win this game, I expect a text from you going, "Ooh, you were right about that one, Jim."
I will give you credit. I will give you praise. I would be so happy, because we'd be thrilled, man. I would, I would give you a toast right here. So that'd be fantastic.
Love it. And we'll absolutely do this again together soon. But thank you again for coming on, and thank everyone for joining this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Nick Brody, and we will see you guys next time.